They never gave me a choice. It wasn't a courtroom or a signature on a dotted line. It was the sound of boots on the stairs, a knock that didn't wait for an answer, and cold hands pulling my infant son from his crib while I screamed. I remember how tightly I held onto him, how the nurse whispered, "It's for his own good." I remember the needle in my neck, the sting, and the darkness. When I woke up, he was gone. They said he'd be adopted into a better life. A family, with money, a future. But what is a future without a name? I've searched for 39 years. I followed rumors through orphanages, government corridors, war-torn cities, and underground resistance networks. Everyone said I was mad, that I should let go, that the world had bigger problems. But I had made her a promise, and now, here I was, a prisoner in a foreign land, surrounded by frightened strangers. And I was looking into the eyes of a man I once rocked to sleep. My son, he didn't recognize me, not at first. He stood above us, flanked by guards, scanning the incoming detainees, like scanning meat for rot, but then his gaze froze. Just for a heartbeat. When it landed on me, there was no kindness, no recognition, but something paused. He turned away quickly, gesturing to one of the guards. They muttered between themselves, then motioned for me and a handful of others to be pulled aside. Secondary processing. Whatever that meant, I didn't care about the bruises from their batons or the cold mud beneath my knees. I had seen his eyes, her eyes, and I knew. They didn't kill him. They had turned him into something worse. He was known as Commandant Elias D. The name meant nothing to me, but when I heard it echo through the courtyard, something in me twisted. Elias was the name his mother and I had once considered. Dietrich was not a name given by architects of ideology, a name without soul. They said he was a model officer, rose through the ranks faster than anyone. Smart, decisive, and utterly loyal. Loyalty forged, not in love, but in indoctrination. The children taken in the early years of the regime were placed in sterile facilities, taught obedience, trained like wolves. They were not raised to be someone. They were raised to belong to someone. And now he belonged to them. In the belly of the facility, there were records, carefully organized, but not carefully protected. A sympathetic cook slipped me access for a night. He didn't speak my language, but he understood the look in my eyes. The file room was a mausoleum of stolen lives. Yellowing photographs, ID numbers, biological profiles, age markers, medical scans, psychological compatibility charts, genetic notes, no real names. I found a file, subject for 7B, selected for elite cognitive conditioning at 13 months. Optimal phenotype. High obedience, potential. There was a photo. Crooked baby teeth and curious eyes. A birthmark on the temple. My hand trembled. I traced the face through the glass sleeve. A guard's voice barked behind me. The folder hit the floor as I was dragged out, ribs cracking under the blow of his rifle. That night, I lay in the dark, holding that face in my mind. I had found him and he would kill me without ever knowing who I was. You can bleach the floors. You can burn scented oil. You can line the halls with propaganda and soft lighting. But you can't mask the smell of death. It clung to everything. The showers, the vents, the guards' uniforms. Flesh has a smell. Bones have a sound when they break. Smoke has a shape when it rises from a chimney that isn't meant for firewood. They said this was a relocation camp, that we'd be sent to work farms, education zones, new settlements. We all knew it was a lie. Some accepted it, some went mad. I endured it for one reason. Alex, they herded us like animals. It was almost clinical. No screaming, no wild dogs, just quiet orders, electric sticks, and the weight of inevitability. The room was large, tiled, polished. It echoed too much. It was too clean to be safe. A woman behind me held a toddler so tightly, I thought she might break the child's ribs. A man in front of me kept repeating the same prayer under his breath like a broken record. I didn't flinch. I looked through the narrow window. He was there, clipboard in hand, his uniform pristine, his face unreadable, his eyes. His mother's iced tea sealed the door. I mouthed it again through the fogged glass. Alex, his real name, and this time, I swear. He froze. His pupils twitched. His fingers gripped the edge of the clipboard. He whispered something to a technician. There was a moment of argument, a shaking of heads, a point at the vents. And then, he left. He didn't watch. He didn't stay, but I saw the conflict. A tremor in his shell. It wasn't enough to save us. But maybe it was enough to save him. I heard it through the speaker. Activate Group 34. His voice cracked for the first time. Barely, but I heard it. Gas hissed from the vents. Quiet, almost polite. No roaring flames, no drama, just the sound of the end, disguised in white mist. A child began to sob. A woman dropped to her knees. I stayed standing, because I wanted him to remember me like that. Not broken, not afraid, but still, his father. They took everything. His childhood, his name, his mother's stories, his father's voice. But they couldn't rewrite his blood. One day, the towers will fall. The truth will come through cracked walls and leaked records, and he'll find the file I tried to steal. He'll find the man in the photo, dead, defiant, still standing. He'll see my face, and remember the lullaby. Remember the name Alex. Remember that before he belonged to them, he belonged to us. And maybe, just maybe, he will cry.